The Hawley Collection is unique because it contains not only the finished tools, but also raw materials, part-made tools, the tools used to make tools, as well as supporting materials such as advertising material, company archives, and perhaps most important, trade catalogues. There are over 7,500 catalogues recorded in the collection, but other materials such as price lists and leaflets probably takes the number of items to over 10,000. This includes 5,000 catalogues for British hand tools, catalogues from foreign manufacturers, and catalogues for cutlery and surgical instruments, hollowware, and woodworking and metalworking machinery. Trade catalogues have become a familiar way for manufacturers, wholesalers, and retailers to bring their products to the attention of potential customers. However, if we go back to the late 18th century or early 19th century, there would have been few advertising or marketing opportunities. Joseph Rogers caused a sensation when they opened a showroom in Norfolk Street in the early 1820s, but for a firm such as George Marriott, a printed price list of files and rasps served the purpose. Sample or pattern cards were another way of showing products to the customer. These could be carried around or sent to valued customers. This example belonged to Samuel Briggs of Brocco Works, Solly Street, and displays the awls, bodkins and needles which he produced for trades such as shoemakers, basket makers, stay makers, saddlers and bookbinders. Another card displays the cast steel knives and forks made by John Fern of Leicester Street. Samples were expensive to produce, and there are reports in the newspapers of disputes over ownership. Were they a loan or a gift? Ken Hawley remembered sample rolls still being brought to his shop, but in some respects it was these samples that the trade catalogue replaced. The printed catalogue was easily portable and provided illustrations of the products together with identifying numbers to avoid any confusion. Factors that were particularly important in rapidly expanding home and overseas markets. Catalogue or pattern books appeared in the second half of the 18th century. Perhaps the most famous is Chippendale's The Gentleman and the Cabinet Maker's Director, published in 1754. The first English catalogue of tools was possibly produced by Liverpool watchmaker John Wyke in 1770. In 1801, Joseph Smith of Sheffield engraved plates for a catalogue produced by Peter Stubbs of Warrington, and this was followed in 1816 by Smith's own explanation or key to the various manufactories of Sheffield. This is one of the most important early 19th century catalogues. It illustrates tools, cutlery and surgical instruments and provides a detailed inventory of what was produced in Sheffield at the time. It includes more than a single manufacturer would have produced, and there has been speculation about how the catalogue would have been used. The James Cam price list, which survives in the original copy in Sheffield Local Studies Library, may provide a clue. It seems likely that selected plates, supplemented by separate price lists, would have been used by individual manufacturers or their agents. This arrangement would have been particularly useful in overseas markets where, for example, these plates of plantation hoes and matchets might have been distributed. Very few Sheffield catalogues survive from the period following Smith's key. This rare Isaac Greaves catalogue from the collection in Sheffield Local Studies Library probably dates from the 1830s or 1840s. Again, the trade name Gambia indicates the importance of the export market. After 1850, more trade catalogues begin to appear, perhaps due to improved printing techniques and the abolition of some taxes, and the catalogues which become known as the Sheffield Lists were produced by a number of different publishers. First to appear in the mid-1850s was the Illustrated Sheffield List, published by Brooks Brothers, a firm of tool merchants. It was followed by the Sheffield Standard List, first published by Robert T. Barras in 1862, and then came the first edition of Pawson and Brailsford's The Sheffield Illustrated List in 1864. Many different versions of the Sheffield List were published, but most follow a similar pattern and include high-quality illustrations of tools, including files, edge tools, saws, joiners' tools, engineers' tools, and others, including trade tools and garden tools, but not cutlery. Some also include the prices agreed by the Company of Cutlers. Like the earlier Smith's key, they provide an overview of tool production in Sheffield at the time. The publishers also advertised the availability of individual pages or customised copies. This 1871 copy of the Illustrated Sheffield List has a Berries & Co. title page and watermarked pages. The Illustrated List survived into the 20th century. Pawson and Brailsford's last Sheffield Illustrated List appeared in 1910. However, by now they had been superseded by catalogues issued by individual manufacturers. The history of catalogues from this point is largely a reflection of developments in printing, design and marketing. And to follow these trends, we have selected examples from one major Sheffield manufacturer, Spearin Jackson. The earliest Spearin Jackson catalogue in the collection is this reprint of the 5th edition from 1880. It has one feature often seen in catalogues, a display of the medals won at various international exhibitions, but the printing and illustrations are of generally poor quality. By 1915 there had been improvements in the paper and print quality and in the layout of the pages. The 1927 edition introduced the branding of a range of Spearin Jackson tools as Neverbend, and the brand has been seen in the company's catalogues up to the present day. Customers were also encouraged to try this method of product testing. Not to be recommended, I wouldn't think. In 1936 there was a dramatic change with this Art Deco cover and a generally more modern feel to the catalogue. In this period we also have increased use of product leaflets targeted at particular sectors of the market. Imagine this man in his allotment or in the garden of his new suburban house, or the potential do-it-yourself market for these Christmas gifts. And what a marketing opportunity in June 1939 for a selection of tools to be kept in your air raid shelter. After the war, the design of catalogues evolved slowly, as we show here, with a catalogue from each decade. By the beginning of the 21st century, the catalogue is very glossy, featuring full-colour photographs. However, by this time, there were alternatives to the traditional printed catalogue. Some of the larger manufacturers distributed catalogues on CD, and this Spearin Jackson example comes in the form of a business card to be given out at trade exhibitions. The internet probably poses the greatest threat to the printed catalogue. In many cases, product details are only available on company websites, and the catalogue as such no longer exists. This is obviously a major challenge to the Hawley Collection as we try to maintain the continuity of the collection. The trade catalogues are an invaluable resource. If you have any catalogues or any other relevant items, please consider a donation to help to maintain and develop this unique collection.